Good evening, Mr. Speaker.
Welcome to the Appointments Committee of the House. We are conducting confirmation hearings or vetting, as is commonly known, of persons that have been nominated by His Excellency the President to be checked to see if they are suitable to hold office as cabinet secretaries. Your name is Honorable Onesimus Kipchumba Murkomen, EGH.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
For the record, the committee here is chaired by yours truly, the Speaker of the National Assembly. On my right is the Deputy Speaker, Honorable Gladys Bose. Jeremiah Ndombi on my left is the Deputy Clerk. I'll invite all the members to introduce themselves, starting with Naisula, for the record.
Naisula Lesuda, MP Samburu West.
Kimani Shongo.
Junet Mohammed.
Nelson Koech.
Kosing David.
Gikaria David.
Mase Mary, Teso South.
Abdul Rahim Daoud, Nordi Menti.
Owen Bayer, Kilifi North.
Robert Mbui, Kadhiani.
Stephen Mule, Matungulu.
Didoraso Saku. Abdishurie Balambala.
Mishimboko Likoni.
Rehab Mukami, Nyeri.
Kitonga Murugara, Tharaka.
Thank you, Honorable Murkomen. You will, of course, be asked questions to answer them on oath. We have the holy books there. We have the Bible. We have the Hindu holy book and the Quran. Depending on your faith, which one do you swear by? The Holy Bible. Take it in your right hand and recite the oath.
I, Onesimus Kipchumba Murkomen, do swear that the evidence I shall give before this committee of the matter under its consideration shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
You are suffering from diminishing returns. You may sign the oath. Honorable Murkomen, you are one of the few who have got the luck to be vetted twice within 2 years. This is the same committee that vetted you some about 18 months ago. Before we embark on the business, hand over your certificates through the sergeant to the clerk to check against what we have. You've also been a colleague of all these members in Parliament for the last 2 terms. In fact, 2.5 terms, or 2 terms and some fraction. So these are your colleagues. I have directed them in cases where we have met former colleagues like Wandai, like Badi, to ask questions without fear or favor, with dignity and respect to each other. And we want precise and concise answers to punguze story mingi. And I've also requested the members that avoid unnecessary preambles to your questions. You just ask your questions so that they can be responded to. So to start in earnest, Honorable Murkomen, give us a short, no more than 5-minute opening statement telling us your name, your educational background, your work experience, your key competences, that make you suitable for the appointment to which you have been nominated as Cabinet Secretary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for this opportunity. First, let me start by appreciating His Excellency the President for nominating me for a second time to serve this Republic. And should I be approved by this House, I will do it with dignity and vigor. Mr. Speaker, I am born and brought up in the eastern slopes of Cherangani Hills, a place called Embobut, where I went to school, and thereafter went both to St. Joseph's High School, Kitale, and St. Patrick's High School, Iten. Both schools are sports giants. As a matter of fact, St. Joseph's Kitale did exceptionally well this year in the football matches, but St. Patrick's High School has always been known to be the athletics powerhouse. I brushed shoulders with world champions and gold medalists, some of whom were my classmates, but I didn't run. Instead, I was a footballer, Mr. Speaker, and I did fairly well. Based on the standards then in the district. The Speaker, thereafter I joined the University of Nairobi to study law at the University of Nairobi School of Law, and graduated in 2004. Thereafter I was awarded a scholarship to study for a postgraduate degree in law at the University of Pretoria, where I did a master's degree in trade and investment law in Africa. And thereafter, I also went to the American University Washington College of Law, where I did another degree, a master's degree in international law. Mr. Speaker, I was in between. Before the master's program, I did my privilege and was admitted to, I actually was awarded a diploma in law, and thereafter admitted to the bar. Mr. Speaker, upon return from the United States in 2007, I was employed to teach at the Catholic University of Nairobi, where I am very proud of the first cohort of my students in my time, one of whom is the President of the Law Society of Kenya. Thereafter, Mr. Speaker, I joined Moi University, as also I taught in Moi University until the time I resigned in 2012 to join politics. In between, I was an adjunct lecturer at the University of Nairobi, Kenyatta University, and a few other colleges and institutions. And Honorable Junaid Mohammed was a beneficiary of that knowledge, Mr. Speaker, in the legal profession. Mr. Speaker, other than that, I need to say that the most relevant part of this experience in the university and college, Mr. Speaker, is the fact that throughout my tenure from high school to the university, I was a student leader. As a matter of fact, at the University of Nairobi, I was the first student to be elected to the President of the Law Society in my second year. And Mr. Speaker, I also served as chair for SONU for a short period of time as we reconstituted SONU. And Mr. Speaker, I also was the CU chair, not just for the University of Nairobi, but all the CUs in the country. I am a product of student movement. I have been brought up, mentored, both in Christian leadership circles and also in the political movement of students.
When you say CU means Christian Union. Christian
Union, yes.
Someone can think it's Cafeteria Union.
It's not CCU at the University of Nairobi. It's actually, Mr. Speaker, the Christian Union, where Mr. Speaker was the president of the Fellowship of Christian Unions leadership across the country. Mr. Speaker, beyond that, I need to say that I also was a board member of the Youth Agenda, where our focus was to make sure that we mainstream youth issues. Mr. Speaker, I have worked with many civil society, both as a consultant, but also as a volunteer in the board. I do a lot of sports-related issues. Mr. Speaker, I was the captain of Bunge FC. And I see my members here, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Kikaria was a fantastic midfielder, a bit aggressive sometimes, but Mr. Speaker, I was the captain, and we did exceptionally well during my tenure, and I scored so many goals in different countries in East Africa. I say this, Mr. Speaker, because of the relevance of this sector of creative economy, youth and sports. And Mr. Speaker, I'm a passionate sports fan, Mr. Speaker, and I believe that my nomination shall contribute to making the issues of the youth, Mr. Speaker, successful. I need to conclude by saying that I was elected in 2013 as a very young leader, not too young, but at least within the bracket of the youth. I was 32 years old. I came to the Senate, Mr. Speaker, and served immediately, nominated to serve in Pan-African Parliament, became the chair of devolution committee, graduated quickly to become the deputy majority leader. By second term, Mr. Speaker, I was the majority leader in the Senate. And Mr. Speaker, in my third term, in all these situations, the people of Elgeyo-Marakwet County elected me 3 times by a minimum of 75% of the votes. As a matter of fact, the last term, I was elected by 90% of the votes. Mr. Speaker, in all these processes of leadership, I got an opportunity to serve as a cabinet secretary for roads and transport, a position I held for until the 11th of November, 11th of July, when the president dissolved the cabinet. Mr. Speaker.
He didn't dissolve, he dismissed.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Yes. Until then, I served in that capacity, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Murkomen. Welcome. I'll now invite the Deputy Speaker to be the first to ask you a question.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, my questions will just be two-way: where you're going and where you had come from, because we will judge your competence as a Cabinet Secretary for Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports based on your performance in your previous position of Cabinet Secretary for Roads and Transport. So I'd like us to tell us what you found when you went to the Ministry of Roads and Transport, and then what were your key achievements, and what is your legacy, so to speak, so that if we had to assess what Murkomen did during that time, we can be able to judge you by that. And then secondly, I'd like you to now tell us what is your vision when you go to the Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports docket. What's your vision of it? What are the challenges you have? Because you've been listening out, you've been in cabinet, you know what the challenges are, and you can make explanation on that. And as you know, I've been very vocal about that particular ministry. Thank you.
Proceed to answer.
Thank you, Mr.
And we expect
Speaker.
Concise and precise responses.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I start by saying that my greatest success in the Ministry of Roads and Transport is leadership. My first responsibility was to be a leader, to put together a team that works together, to make sure that the ministry and the state agencies are working together seamlessly, Mr. Speaker. Some of the agencies that I found dysfunctional, especially Kenya Airports Authority, with too many of its senior staff acting. I made sure that, Mr. Speaker, we fixed that problem, because that problem was the cause of the other systemic problem within the institution itself. Mr. Speaker, I operated and worked with the managing directors, director generals, the PSS as a team, and at no time, Mr. Speaker, did you hear any squabbles in the ministry. Number two, the second success for me is to be able to lead for the 2 years with integrity and honor, without, Mr. Speaker, bringing my office into any disrepute. And Mr. Speaker, for the 2 years, no accusation was leveled against me, Mr. Speaker, of any kind on matters of integrity. I carried myself with honor. I abhorred acts of corruption. I managed to lead and remove some of our staff, Mr. Speaker, in some of the agencies, including Kenya Rural Roads Authority, that had become, Mr. Speaker, difficult for my predecessor to remove them because of acts of corruption. And Mr. Speaker, in terms of delivery, Mr. Speaker, despite the difficult situation we found ourselves with pending bills, we were able to work together as a team with all the roads agencies to deliver about 1,000 kilometers of tarmac roads, both new roads and, Mr. Speaker, the ones that were being reconstructed. All of these roads are in small bits and pieces. You'll find one like Thika Magumu in Kiambu, or the road from Mtwapa to Kilifi, or the road from Kwanjumbu, Mariakani, or Masera Sori in Homa Bay, or the towns of Embu, Kericho, Bungoma, and other towns in the country. Cumulatively, Mr. Speaker, we did about 1,000 kilometers of roads, despite the difficulties we had with the budget. Mr. Speaker, on the part of development funds, I reorganized, Mr. Speaker, and pushed for the contracts that had been delayed for construction of the roads from Isiolo to Ajia to Mandera. And now, Mr. Speaker, all the contracts have been awarded under the African Development Bank and World Bank funding projects, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also led the process of ensuring that, Mr. Speaker, we get funds for our roads. Remember, when I came here, we had a huge pending bill, and it was very difficult for us to solve that issue. His Excellency the President gave me the opportunity to travel to China to work with our development partners, and through my efforts, Mr. Speaker, and collective efforts of the team in government, I managed to raise 37 billion shillings from the China Development Bank to support about 15 roads that, Mr. Speaker, gladly, unfortunately, I didn't live to see its completion, but they are commencing, Mr. Speaker, from the month of August. Mr. Speaker, beside that, I also pushed for the resources to construct the intelligent traffic system. I promised when I came for vetting here. Now the intelligent traffic system has been advertised. 221 junctions are going to be fixed in the Nairobi city, Mr. Speaker, for that technology. I led the process also of PPPs. For the road from Mombasa to Nairobi, the American government, American investor, Mr. Speaker, has made a proposal, and that proposal is ongoing because we have facilitated them. Mr. Speaker, we had a problem with the Rironi Mau Summit, one of the most popular cases. There was an existing contract that I took the a step of courage, Mr. Speaker, to mutually terminate. And Mr. Speaker, we should be able, as the President promised, also to advertise after September, when the mutual termination period is over, so that we get a contractor by January next year. Mr. Speaker, in the road sector also, I'd like to say that, Mr. Speaker, we have done a commendable job to raise resources. My last act in that office, Mr. Speaker, was to make sure that we get resources for maintaining our roads. When I came to Parliament several times, because these questions were asked, I appraised the country that we have what we call orphaned roads. And these roads are, especially in Kenya, rural roads, and they needed significant resources. Our demand per year for maintaining the roads is 150 billion, Mr. Speaker, yet we only raised 84 billion. This year, I took the significant step, did the public participation, and eventually we were able to increase the road maintenance levy by 7 shillings, working together with the petroleum sector to make sure that that increase did not make the cost of petroleum higher than it is. If it is something significant I'm leaving back in this ministry for the benefit of the honorable members who are here, we shall be having now constituency roads management having at least 100 million shillings in every constituency, up from 62 million in the last financial year, and we should be able to fix the problems that we have in our roads. That needed leadership, needed boldness, Mr. Speaker, to make that significant contribution. Mr. Speaker, it wasn't just the road sector that I superintended upon. There was also the transport sector. We did a lot in the port. Mr. Speaker, we were able to increase the efficiency of the port by 12%. We handled 1.6 million TEUs of cargo, up from 1.4. And this year, Mr. Speaker, we are going to handle 2 million TEUs. In also that sector, Mr. Speaker, we have increased investment, especially in Lake Victoria. Now the oil transport that I saw Honorable Wandai speaking about, now fuel is being transported across Lake Victoria. You don't need to burden the roads across to Uganda. Mr. Speaker, we are also building piers in Kisumu, and also getting a ferry from Fangano Island. Some of those investments, Mr. Speaker, were based on the things we did. In the Lapsset corridor, for the first time, the Lamu port was able to handle significant cargo, 60 million metric tons of fertilizer destined
towards Ethiopia based on our diplomatic work within the Lapsset corridor. Now Lapsset corridor is functioning. The road from Lamu to Ijara, Mr. Speaker, which was a Maram road, we made sure that we fixed that problem. Now a tarmac road is being constructed. It's on the way. We have up to February next year to make sure that that tarmac road is delivered to Ijara, and the road from Ijara to Isiolo is also ongoing, Mr. Speaker. I look forward within next year that the Lapsset corridor will be completed, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also did some work at the airport. You remember that when I arrived, the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport was a place of shame. All the airports do not have a maintenance policy. Mr. Speaker, after fixing the human resource, we made sure also we fixes the maintenance policy. Now we've been able to fix Jomo Kenyatta International Airport drainage system. We've also been dealt with the roofing, and Mr. Speaker, there is a progress in that direction. We've also fixed, Mr. Speaker, many of the other airports. There was a lighting problem in Eldoret. Wilson Airport, for many of us who are here who've used the Wilson Airport, you know that it's full of potholes and bumps, Mr. Speaker. Now we have awarded the contract to make sure that the aprons and the runway is redone afresh, because Wilson Airport is among the busiest airports in the continent, Mr. Speaker. Even as we did that, we completed also contracts that were pending for our airstrips in Anyuki, airstrip in Nakuru now are ongoing. We finished the Matulo airstrip, Mr. Speaker. We opened new routes for airlines to go to Kabundo in Homa Bay. We did in Migori, Mr. Speaker. We did also new route to Kakamega. Mr. Speaker, now our airspace is booming. I opened doors, Mr. Speaker, for new airlines. We have Fly Dubai now flying to Mombasa. Air Indigo is now flying directly from India to Nairobi. And one of my last also responsibility was to grant Etihad a flight to come back to Nairobi. All this is done balancing, Mr. Speaker, with the interest of the Kenya, Mr. Speaker, Kenya Airways. Even that, Mr. Speaker, is just a tip of the things we have succeeded to do. Let me just say the last one, Mr. Speaker, is the. You know, I left the minister abruptly, so this is an opportunity to share. And I just in 2 more minutes, Mr. Speaker, is to say that in the railway sector, we've done a very good job to revamp the commuter rail system in the city of Nairobi, increasing the 10 stations in the city. We significantly pushed the Kumi program of the World Bank, which will give us 60 billion shillings to revamp the commuter rail system in the city. And Mr. Speaker, that will also lead to increasing the stations and therefore significantly reduce climate impact in the city and pollution, because we will be using mass transit of the railway. Mr. Speaker, we have done so also by connecting Mombasa to Miritini itself, and we are doing a construction of Riruta, Mr. Speaker, all the way to Ngong and hopefully then to Rongai, so that then we can significantly move our people using commuter rail. I was in the process of getting funding, working together with private sector and Ugandan government to make sure that we extend the railway from Naivasha to Kampala. I believe that my successor, the person who comes after me, my successor, Mr. Speaker, will continue from where we left in so far as that is concerned. There are so many other things we've done in the transport sector, in the Namata. All these will be now factors of history, and we shall have the time to be able to share. So I just want to say this, Mr. Speaker, that even as we accuse the government, and there is a general accusation across board that we've not done the communication, unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, no matter how much we try to publicize these great things we have done, it is trounced by criticism and predetermined programming, Mr. Speaker, to label certain people as a failure. I have worked passionately, committed to deliver my work, working sometimes up to midnight, Mr. Speaker, and this is a job I look back and say the last 2 years have been exciting for me, and I look forward to also taking the same energy and vigor to the next ministry. Mr. Speaker, the vision I have for the young people of this republic, there are many people who have asked themselves that, why Murkomen? Why is he being put here? I believe that, Mr. Speaker, the President carefully chose me because of my energy, my commitment, my passion, and my history with young people. Mr. Speaker, I do a lot of mentorship across the country, even when I was in the Ministry of Roads and Transport. Mr. Speaker, I ran a tournament, a tournament, Mr. Speaker, that runs in about 5 counties, and we were moving to the 6th county in the Kerio Valley region, which uses sports and For that reason, it was football last year to bring warring communities together, the Pokots, the Marakwets, the Turkana, the Samburus, Mr. Speaker, the people of Tugen, to bring them together to play together. And last year, as a result of that tournament, for the first time, we had an opportunity. Some leaders from Turkana got the first time to be in Kapenguria when we were playing football, and I was really surprised. And that way, sports, Mr. Speaker, is also one way of bringing people together. I have a passion for the young people, and I believe that that passion is going to be translated to action, Mr. Speaker, once I assume office. And that passion is to sort the problems that are bedeviling our young people. The problem of unemployment, Mr. Speaker. The problem of our sports sector, the way it's mismanaged, Mr. Speaker. And many other issues that I hope we will delve into.
That will
because my teacher, Honorable Gladys Boshole, has asked a very wide question. If I'm left to answer, Mr. Speaker,
I want to narrow you down now to
yes, I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
the much you have said and said it well. Majority Leader?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Going forward now, we answer questions directly.
Honorable Speaker, allow me to start with a question on FIFA. CS nominee FKF received a letter from FIFA in March threatening suspension following a litany of court cases bedeviling the Kenyan Federation. And to date, FKF has not held their AGM, nor released an election roadmap. If you get the opportunity to serve in this ministry or don't want to hear what you intend to do, I do know you're a football fan, but the teams that you support are not Kenyan teams, at least the ones I see you online supporting. What will you do to make sure that our football gets back its glory and at least Kenyans can be watching our Premier League the way they watch the English Premier League? Two, you have clearly put out your report card for the time that you are the Ministry of Roads and Infrastructure. I remember a year ago, you appeared in Parliament and promised Parliament and the people of Kenya that you would be exploring PPP as a model, an alternative model of financing huge infrastructural projects. I do know there was some work on Adani at the airport. Would want to hear whether this is a Kipchumba Murkomen who has been accused on social media of selling, in quotes, our airport. Did you or did you not sell our airport? And who did you sell to?
Take Junet as well.
The Speaker.
Yes.
I have taken note that the CS nominee, last time we vetted him here under your chairmanship, and I've seen he has just come with the same suit that he came with that time. I have the picture with me here in my phone, Mr. Speaker. I was waiting for a different one.
It's the same suit?
The same suit and the same tie. I was looking for something else.
Maybe that's his attire of luck.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing, Mr. Speaker. Maybe the people who live in the valleys of Elgeyo Marakwet told him, if you want to get approval, just take that suit and that tie. Yes. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, the question I want to ask him is that one is about this Ministry of Sports. I wanted to ask him that about protection and growth of local content. What measures will you take to protect Kenyan artists from plagiarism? Then how is the government going to assist local artists, local creatives in achieving 60% of content for local broadcast? How will you ensure that all Kenyans, including those who do not have access to TV, can consume our local content? How will you achieve that? And lastly, Waziri, from your previous office, please put it very clear to this committee. What is this matter of Adani and Jomo Kenyatta Airport? When did you travel to India? Whom did you go? What is the content of the letter? Everything. We want to know whether the Jomo Kenyatta Airport is still Kenyan Airport or it is now Mumbai International Airport. Please.
Yes, nominee.
Mr. Chair, as a matter of fact, what...
You either refer to me as chairman or speaker. I'm not a chair. I'm sitting on one.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Chairperson. Or chairman.
Yes.
Why don't you like chairperson, Mr. Speaker? Because you don't want to give room for agenda.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
If I say this, I will offend you and other people. I am an ardent fan. Contrary to what Mr. Kimani Ichung'wah said, I am a serious fan of Gor Mahia. I used to. Does
that offend me?
Because you are a fan. I suspect you are AFC.
I'm a fan of Arsenal. No. My local team is AFC.
On a light note, I used to. On Saturdays in the St. Patrick's High School, we used to be allowed to get out of school. So we used to sneak from Iten all the way to Eldoret to watch Gor Mahia play KCC. And I was really used to be thrilled. So I've been a Gor Mahia fan for a long period of time. Besides that, in UK, I support Manchester, and in Spain, I support Real Madrid. Mr. Speaker, sports is for fun. And Mr. Speaker, I agree with Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah. Those days when we used to support Gor Mahia, AFC, and all the other teams, Shabana, among others, KCC, we even used to know all the players, up to the reserve team. Now, Mr. Speaker, I don't even know our Gor Mahia players, who they are, even when they change. Why? Because the standard of football has gone down over time. It is a paradox because access to media has increased. Meanwhile, the accessing sports and publicity of sport and standard of sports has gone down. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I agree with Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah that the place that has to start is, Mr. Speaker, sports management, and for this purpose, FKF. Mr. Speaker, it is not right that for the last 8 years, you have an organization that has a leadership in office that has not been elected, but they are there in perpetuity, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's not just FKF, it's AK. AK has been there for 12 years without an election. Cricket Association, the same. Badminton, the same. Mr. Speaker, for swimming, the same. There is a problem, a serious problem, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to sports management in this country. And Mr. Speaker, what is also worse is that there is a collaboration. And unfortunately, as an officer of the court, I have to say this. There is a collaboration between these organizations and, Mr. Speaker, court orders. If you find why the AK has never held elections for 12 years, it's because they are perpetuating themselves using a court order. That is the same way the FKF is perpetuating itself along a court order. Mr. Speaker, the first thing I will do is to make sure that we bring all the stakeholders, and Mr. Speaker, I promise I'll do that within the next 1 month, all the stakeholders in different sectors of sports to make sure that we have a conversation on how to turn around these sports. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I would like, and I hope the Chief Justice is watching me, or even if she's not watching me, she will be told. I'd like to have a meeting with the Chief Justice, Mr. Speaker, should I be approved, to discuss with the Chief Justice how they will expeditiously make decisions in relation to, Mr. Speaker, elections and officials of sports associations. Mr. Speaker, the Chief Justice and our judges must understand that they are blocking young people from accessing opportunities, Mr. Speaker. The third issue, Mr. Speaker, is that I am going to request those people who have served for more than 8 years in any federation, Mr. Speaker, to recuse themselves and give an opportunity to new people who have energy and vigor to be elected, Mr. Speaker, to make sure that they take over these associations. The last thing, Mr. Speaker, I'll say on that point is
they will never recuse themselves.
I know.
Just restructure the constitution.
I'm coming to the next one.
Give them 2 terms, non-renewable. After 2 terms, 3 years, 4 years, they finish, they go.
I was coming to that, Mr. Speaker. I was coming to the next issue. The next issue, Mr. Speaker, is that we will make sure that we will not finance any sports federation that, Mr. Speaker, is not following the Sports Act and does not do regular elections. Mr. Speaker, the other issue that we must deal with is that we cannot hide. Our sports federations cannot continue to hide, saying that the resources they get from FIFA or World Athletics Organization or International Badminton Organizations are not subject to auditing. We must audit that money, Mr. Speaker, and we will involve Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. We will involve DCI if it requires, Mr. Speaker. That money is given to Kenya, not for the association themselves. It's on behalf of the young people of Kenya, Mr. Speaker, and we must take them by the horns, Mr. Speaker. And I promise you, I am not an easy person to play with. I am going to go straight to these federations. I'm going to deal with these federations. And if they accept, if they want to, Mr. Speaker, to continue operating, they must accept to work with us. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to say that to return our football and to return our sports, Mr. Speaker, back, we must also make sure that football management is done well. But on the other side, we must also support the private sector. For example, Safaricom with Chapadimba, they're doing a very good job in identifying talent. We need to encourage other associations, other companies, Mr. Speaker, with tax rebates that are paid on time and transparently to make sure that we return private sector to be able to support our sports teams, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know there are many other issues on sports, but that was very specific to FIFA and the cases that are there. Mr. Speaker, as a matter of fact, Mr. Mwenda is my friend, Mwendwa, and Tuei is a person I know. I want these people to just believe in the people of Kenya and give a chance.
You are confirmed.
Yes.
You are not being confirmed to go and work with friends. You are going confirmed to go and work for the people of Kenya.
That's why I'm saying, Mr. Speaker,
yes,
they are my friends, but they need to know, Mr. Speaker, that time is up. The people of Kenya would like to have an organization that is being run in a proper manner and in a accountable manner. And they need to know one thing. Murkomen is not alone. Now I have an army behind me of young people. Mr. Speaker, they either voluntarily exit these positions and accept the changes that we need, or we greet them or occupy them, Mr. Speaker.
That will be unlawful.
Mr. Speaker.
And we encourage you not to go that route.
No, Mr. Speaker.
If you are confirmed.
No, not illegally. We will do it, Mr. Speaker, in a peaceful manner. Because, Mr. Speaker, we will follow Article 37 very carefully, Mr. Speaker, to make sure that this is achieved. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that on the PPP issue of the airport, PPP is a very important concept of developing our infrastructure. You know that, Mr. Speaker, as I said earlier, on the road of Rironi-Mau Summit, already the previous government had committed itself on the PPP. Unfortunately, the contractor they worked with was not willing to ensure that there is no transfer of guarantee to the people of Kenya. That is the reason why we are terminating the contract. Otherwise, the road would have started if they had accepted not to transfer that burden to the people of Kenya. We are redoing that PPP because of that. Mr. Speaker, for the airport, I want to be very clear, Mr. Speaker, to the people of Kenya. I have not, and I do not have the capacity to enter into any PPP as a person, as a cabinet secretary. And I have not in any way sold the airport. Mr. Speaker, the truth of the matter is this. The president has said this publicly. The PCS has said this publicly. PPP, the people of Kenya need to be taken through the process of PPP. A PIIP proposal, which is the case of Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, that is privately initiated proposal. Mr. Speaker, which is part of PPP. Mr. Speaker, is not the first one. The first PIIP, Mr. Speaker, in this country was the expressway. The expressway was through a PIIP. The government evaluated it. They found a proper contractor. Now we have expressway with a contract period of 30 years, transferable back to the people of Kenya once the road is used and maintained. Mr. Speaker, the difference between the expressway and the airport is that there was a proposal. And this is not just one proposal. People keep coming with proposals. Some are serious, some are not serious. Some you invite them to come for meetings, they don't come. When a PIIP proposal has been done, the contracting authority, in this case Kenya Airports Authority, goes through a preliminary process of establishing the viability and the verifying the existence of the company, the capacity, and so forth. Once they do the preliminary process, Mr. Speaker, as the case is in Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, that process now moves to PPP committee, PPP's directorate in the ministry, in the treasury. That process has not.
Kameme TV, Muthegi wa Ruriri. Patanie no ngombata Oigaji koro kenongodie Nikere ungo kararie Mahoya mare makiambeleria Nikebarelia kogo daira Kai wakwa ukanjigua Demogore Nada kamea Jesu Ukafati Nane narata Koromalirewe
Tafareni okete ya githima kia muoyo
Kirumi ogora igwa matini ukiaria kirumi getienda kumenya kana wi muhonoku kirumi getienda kumenya kana wi na degree kirumi getienda kumenya kana uciaritwo nyumba ya muthamaki kirumi kiri kuingira ni king'uki giukaga thiini wa mucii na kirumi gitiukaga oro uguo ukiona kundu gukigia na kirumi kwina kindu gitagwo legal ground kirumi ni kiri handafu mutugo ndwithambagwo rui
kuri kirimu kia rugo ndio kana ni oi
kawirwo moko ni mundu ono ngikageria ugererie ku ono ngigathie kanitha-ini ndugateithika
tago Martin wa Janet tafari ya githima kia muoyo iri ikorwo igiuka haha ukamenya kihonia na ugathikiriria na ugateithika
kuma kirinyaga kiri biroiro kia njahi mutamburuko wa Nyandarua urerorera Kameme TV.
Utuko wa tariki 3 mweri wa kanana mwaka wa 2024 mwiroreri wa Kameme TV ohana atia watinda atia ni ihinda ria mohoro maturaini tukumenyithio ria bururi wa Gitinda tobe twamukire matemo mamo mamwe mamaria tukuthagathagiire mohoro maturaini.
The good provisions which have been lost by this bill, which are not contentious, and there are many, which can still help this country grow the economy, we can bring them as specific amendments to those acts.
Mihango ya Guthurima Maminista aria mamuritwo kuingira thiko ya gatatu guku Minista mwamure wa Kigina John